Thank you for tuning in to the 4th episode of my Search for Truth podcast. Hope you enjoy what were the issues we're discussing today, and I hope it spurns some conversations in yourself, because that's the whole point, right? So let's get into it.
So what's going on in the world?
Jeez, lots going on in the world, as always, as has always happened, but especially now. Social media makes you wonder sometimes whether things are just happening more often or we know about them more. You look at history, right? Things change, go back and forth. Russia used to be our enemy, right? Republicans used to hate Russia. Now apparently they don't mind them. Of course, now the story that happened, I think I read today, there was Robert Mueller put down some indictments on some Russian nationals, or I don't know exactly the term he used, but Russian actors that apparently worked with unwitting American counterparts is the only thing he said. But so it's interesting that basically with him putting out those indictments, it makes it so that if Trump wants to fire Mueller or fire Rod Rosenstein, who's the deputy attorney general, so he can put in a different deputy attorney general to fire Robert Mueller in the first place, if he does any of that, it looks like he's complicit with Russia. So it's almost like it's Mueller's first chess move, his real first chess. I'm sure he has his mind made up by now. But you go to try to take down a president, and it's no small task. So you better be really damn sure. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Everybody's kind of playing the wait and see game right now.
How much similar is it to Nixon?
Well, there's a lot of similarity, and there is a lot of similarities to Nixon and Watergate, except the blatant disregard, which is interesting. The whole Watergate thing was the break into the Democratic committee building or Democratic Party and all that. But it really was the tip of the iceberg to all of Henry Kissinger's secret wars in Latin America, which I'd love to get into that sometime for another episode. And it came out basically because of the tapes. There was Nixon tapes and all that basically he said everything on tape, and you can't really argue with that. But, a lot of similarities in the fact that, especially with Nixon after he left office, saying that when a president does something, it's not illegal. And Trump said, if the president does it, he doesn't have any, or the president can't have conflicts of interest because he's the president. So he's basically saying that it's okay for him to directly make money off of his office, employ his children, and blatantly disregard the rule of law and the Constitution until somebody actually catches him, because he'll push it as far as it can go. Which, you don't really want to jump on the whole he's a tin pot dictator, which you can make the argument, but he is kind of in some initial stages. And I know I probably talked about this a couple episodes ago, but it's true. But to bring it back to Nixon kind of comparisons, it's the same in that it's very secretive. Nixon talked bad about the press. There was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that a lot of people thought wasn't too cool. However, with Trump, the difference is that there was something called the Church Committee. Frank Church, who was a senator from Idaho, and they had these meetings committee hearings and stuff after the Watergate, and it brought in all these rules basically for spy agencies, how it was supposed to be a check on them. That's when the intelligence committees in the Senate and in Congress, that's when they got put in the late 70s when that happened. Now, so basically the difference with Trump is he's trying to overturn all of this and go so blatantly over the side until somebody catches him. I mean, you're talking about somebody who didn't want to be president anyways. So the fact that he's acting exactly like he said, working with the same people he's always worked with. And that was a whole fallacy, right? The FBI was investigating Clinton, but the FBI was investigating him because they've known off and on for years that he's had shady deals with Russian mobsters and shady people funding his golf courses. And especially since he's declared bankruptcy 5 or 6 times or whatever it was, so he didn't have to pay his bills. No bank in America will lend him money. And when you're real estate and into buying buildings and buying lots of things, you usually borrow money, because it's one of those old sayings, you want to make money but you don't want to have to spend your own money to get it, so which incurs borrowing. And no US bank is going to let somebody borrow money from them that's declared bankruptcy 6 times. So where do you think the money's coming from? Of course it's coming from Russia. You look back to the old movie, The Manchurian Candidate. I like the old version with Frank Sinatra a little better than the newer version, although Denzel Washington was great. Just the ending I didn't really agree with. But it was basically about this hand-picked candidate by this secret cabal of, almost conspiracy type government people trying to, control the world. And basically telling them what to do. If every president figurehead is a puppet, then this was like the ultimate puppet, to directly link, him and make him do actions that maybe he would do, maybe he wouldn't, who knows, but basically pushing him towards a direction that he would definitely destroy a lot of things, destroy democracy, destroy a lot of the things that America was built on. So in the 50s or 60s, Frank Sinatra came out in the early, actually I think the movie came out in 62. Angela Lansbury's in it, which is a great flick. So their basic enemy back then was communism and Russia and the bomb. You watch the Denzel Washington version, and it brings up terrorism and everything. So they brought it into more realistic times. So going along with that, we could say that Trump is the ultimate Manchurian candidate. Because not only does he have a lot of time on his hands, because the people behind the scenes are the ones really running things, you have all these other people funding him and funding him through other entities and groups to do all kinds of nefarious things. And so we're just supposed to be okay with that, apparently. I mean, we're not. At least I'm not. I know a lot of people, or should I say elected officials, congressmen, senators, and stuff, maybe they're coming around. The Republicans used to be hardcore against Russia. Now look at them. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. They'll basically defend it until the hammer comes after them and they're like, oh no, wasn't me. Whenever you ask somebody or you accuse somebody of something that they know they did, but don't want to admit it, that is the exact moment when they get crazy and angry and point the finger. No collusion, no collusion, no collusion, no comment, I'm not guilty. It's almost like he's basically projecting what he's trying to make himself believe, like he's convincing himself, or he's trying to convince himself.
So, you started talking about the Russians and collusions and things like that. Do you think these people who put in these positions of power, what have you, the ones who've been accused of collusion, do you think they're traitors of the state? why would someone do that? Why would someone come from, you know, an American, go and take money from the Russians when it would negatively affect his fellow countrymen?
Well, I think that's just it. I think people do collude and people do become entities of Russia, or however you would categorize that, because they're only looking out for themselves. All they care about is money. And because there's a certain amount of mystique maybe to it. Oh, I'm going to do this thing and there's no way I'm going to get caught. I'm going to make tons of money. That's the thing. They're not thinking about America when they do it. You know, and it's funny, it almost goes into why people who claim hardcore patriotism are really the opposite in a lot of their actions. That Republican memo that came out, right? That now the Democratic one is being blocked. The Russians, even themselves, there was all this stuff from some of these Russian-hacked Facebook accounts, and I guess security is getting a little bit better now, but probably not as good as it should be, that they were behind a lot of the push for that. So, which I heard, which one of the other quotes that, or things that I was reading today, how there were some people that approached also to support Bernie Sanders, Russians, as far as that goes. He turned them down. People can believe whatever they want to believe. I mean, hell, some people believe that Hillary Clinton was running a child sex ring out of a pizza parlor. I mean, come on. You know, the moon landing was staged. Give me a break. Anyway, let's not get too off topic here. I think all of it comes down to greed. Greed, want of power.
So it's not really a country thing or
no,
a belief thing. It's just a
not to
thing.
them. And if they're claiming that they don't collude and that they don't do this because they're such patriots, that's what they're selling to the public. But what they're really doing behind... Now, I'm not saying that it's all everybody, because you don't... the same way, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are patriots and are supporting this country that realize that being funded by Russia, who is being led by Putin, who's slowly starting to trend them and has been for years back towards the Soviet Union and some weird kind of quasi-communism, probably closer to what China has. You know, one-party rule. He'll be president for, you know, our lifetime probably. You know, it's basically, I mean, yeah, it's greed and money. It's greed and money. You know, it makes me angry sometimes. It makes me angry a lot of times, sure. You know, I know there's a lot of good people out there, again, that know this is wrong. Maybe you vote Republican, maybe you vote conservative, that realize teaming up with Russia is a bad thing. I know there's people on the Democratic side that believe that. Of course, there's probably also some Democratic people that believe a lot of other things. No group is monolithic. But also one of the almost propaganda terms, not terms, that's the wrong word, but propaganda devices, that's a better word for it, that was used with the whole Russia thing, is that Sputnik and Russia Today, I believe, they have an American station, and there's a lot of, and I've seen some of the stuff on here, it's got a lot of different Americans on there. And so they're saying that, oh, this is a Russian propaganda outlet. Now, a lot of media is funded by the Russian government. Let's not, you know, let's not kid ourselves. That's true. A lot of stuff is state-run, again, because he's trying to trend it all back towards this weird crony capitalism, communism, weird amalgamation of things. But, man, it's just, it gets crazy sometimes. It makes me think about, you know, authenticity of people and who we, or should I say, are we who we portray? You know, are we the same people that we I guess none of us are the same all the time, but we shouldn't go out there and totally disregard. I mean, it's funny, right? It's like the ultimate irony. You're going out there and saying that I'm all for America and I'm this big pro-American, while at the same time doing things to damage the country, which are only possible to do because of the freedoms that we have. It's the whole hypocrisy of the whole thing and the way it all kind of trends back on each other. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, obviously. One thing I haven't seen yet, which I'm still wanting to see, is what's going to happen. Say the Trump-Russia thing gets him thrown out of office. Granted, bringing it a little bit back to Nixon. Nixon was only thrown out of office when the Republicans finally let him behind, which leads me to believe that the only way Trump would ever get thrown out of office is if the Republicans got pissed off at him. How many other people in the administration and how many other congressmen's, good English, right? How many of them were complicit? And if people are complicit, shouldn't they kind of get punished too? Because if everything worked its way up the food chain, okay, great. So you put Trump out of office, and then Mike Pence becomes president, and then you have someone who doesn't have quite the distractions, who's still going to push the radical agenda through. All this stuff they've been wanting to do for years. It makes you wonder who's going to actually get in trouble. Is it going to be the underlings like always, or the top people? Now, also what happened in the Watergate investigation, part of it almost became not so much about the actual crime, but about the cover-up. And it got repeated over and over and over again. You know, what did he know and when did he know it? And that's exactly it. If some of these staff members and cabinet members and congressmen and aides and who else knows who could get wrapped up in it, if they knew something and didn't say something, I mean, shouldn't they get in trouble too? Shouldn't there be something about that? But then what are you going to do? Tear apart the whole government and rebuild the whole thing again? I mean, granted, some people would argue that's what we need to do, right? But, you know, I'm not one to believe in a scorched earth policy. You know, we don't need to clean the entire slate to rebuild something better. I think the roots are there. Humans are there. People know that this is the wrong thing. We know that we shouldn't be allowing Russia to meddle in our elections. Yet what have we done so far to stop them? They keep talking about, oh, well, they're going to be so involved in the 2018, which, by the way, is only, 7-8 months away, whatever. And, you have Rex Tillerson on TV, the U.S., of course, Secretary of State, basically saying, oh, well, Russia's going to always try something, and no matter what measures we put into place, they're always going to do something against it. So it's like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't do anything. Really? Is that where we're at? Is that where America's come to? That just everybody's going to do whatever they're going to do and there's nothing we can do about it? Don't we realize that our moral authority and our, place of freedom, and to borrow a term from Ronald Reagan, that certainly his context got turned to the wrong side of things? Be the shining light on the hill, beacon, freedom, which is funny, because you could obviously make the argument that we've been losing a lot of that, especially in the last year. Civil rights have gone down, you're talking a Muslim ban, you're talking a president who uses, shithole country as a, not a term of endearment, but probably to his base. And there's still a lot of people that want to come here. Because despite all of that crap, it's still better than how a lot of people have it. So what does that say? Does that say that everywhere else is so bad that our version of bad, it isn't as much? So at least it's a half a step forward for some coming here? Maybe. Or maybe what it is the fact that those roots are there. And yeah, there's a battle going on right now. Culture war stuff's coming back up. You have people talking about things that they haven't for a while, and why. Russia, civil rights. I mean, doesn't this all ring a bell? We're all in this period of just stuff is alive, right? Stuff is raw, which is good. But again, and maybe I've said it before, but that older generation that fought all those battles back when, they're kind of getting older. They're, getting even more decrepit than they were. They've always been decrepit since they were young. That's why they hold the views they do. But they're, they'll be died off soon. They know the newest generation is coming. I mean, look how hard that side fought against gay marriage, and nothing happened. It got passed anyway. So what does that say? It basically says that the newer generation isn't going to put up with all this stuff. That old guard of people knows it's losing their grip on power. They're not going to give up without a fight. What we have to do is basically not lose our soul in the process. How do we do that? We remember our humanity. We remember why we want to unify with people, and why we want to have conversations, and why we want to love our fellow man. Oh, you hear people say, oh, I'm not my brother's keeper. Well, why shouldn't we be? Shouldn't we look out for our neighbor? Shouldn't we look out for a fellow human being? Isn't that kind of why we're in this mess in the first place? Because we believe that some people are better than others, and so we elect people that further our views? I mean, I guess that's what people do when they vote. But at the same time, what's different, and how maybe it's evolving and furthering that fight, is that a lot of laws got passed, right? Back in the 60s, back during civil rights. But it didn't, the emotions, the undercurrent of racism and hate and all these things, they were still there. Boiling, simmering, whatever adjective you want to use, right? So now, it's boiling over. The stuff that's always been there, just under the surface, is out in the open because they feel like they have a leader that is okay with that. I'm not saying that he's an outright racist. Maybe he probably is. He said a lot of things that you would consider that. But at this point, I don't think he believes anything. I think he just goes where the dollar is, and he's going to say anything to anybody for any money. For anything. If it gets him more power, if it gets him more notoriety, if it adds some more zeros to his bank account. It's the whole reason Trump colluded with Russia in the first place, right? Money, greed. Oh, I can get away with this. I can do whatever the hell I want, right? Well, you know what? People are going to stand up. People are going to get to a point where it's so blatantly obvious in their face that, they know they're going to have to do something. I like to describe it, or at least I have before, as your 2x4 moment. It's the extreme, obviously, but you get hit in the head by a 2x4, you're going to realize something's going on, right? Well, some people have been so blinded or so stuck in survival mode or been so ingrained with generational beliefs and thoughts and ideas that it takes a while to get over it. Well, now's the time. Now's the time. I mean, if there's any good thing that can come out of all of this, is that people are starting to wake up. They're starting to talk a little more. Yeah, the news media might not be covering it all the time, but then again, the news media has never covered it all the time before Trump for years. People in peace movements and people driving rights movements, whether it be civil rights, women's rights, gay rights, any of that stuff. They've always had to fight for coverage. That's not a new thing. Are we willing to keep up the fight? Are we willing to stand up? Are we willing to get outside of our bubble and go beyond what we've always been told? That would be great, right? Well, there's certain things that we've always been told that we should always remember at the same time, right? Colluding with Russia is bad. Hating your fellow man is bad. Putting your rights above somebody else's, you know all these things. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I just think that it's time. It's been way past time where maybe something has to happen. Something has happened, obviously. People get enlightened at their different speeds, different times. I know that. So what's it going to take? It's going to take something different for everybody. So how do you even enter that fight? How do you even get people to pay attention when all people pay attention for different reasons? It's the hardest thing. If I knew the full answer to that, I'd just wave my magic wand and, everything would be better. I'm sure a lot of us out there want to do that. Be easy. But if we do that, we're avoiding the hard battles that we avoided in the first place, which caused civil rights, which caused... Obviously, there was more violent examples back when. I mean, you go all the way back to Reconstruction and all of that, and there was lots of things you could what-if yourself to death, is what I'm trying to say. But since we're at this point now, we have to move forward. We shouldn't look back, we should look forward, yes. But like the old saying, of course, if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. So we got to at least pay attention to what happened. We got to know the backstories of things. So at least when we come into the fight, or come into the talk, or come into the love, however you want to describe that, we're doing it because we want to. We know a little bit. Now I know a lot of people out there know that bad things are going on, but maybe they are stuck in that survival mode, working paycheck to paycheck. Trying to feed your family, trying to just get by. Maybe you don't have time for all these other deeper thoughts and deeper conversations. Well, when someone always says that they're busy, it's probably true. Usually we can carve out little times, and it's what we're willing to do. Maybe people who feel like they don't have time for this, or they're not that into it, or it's not that interesting, or they get bored, maybe that's their little bubble they have to come out with, or come out of. Maybe that's the obstacle that they have to overcome, or the adversity. Everybody's got some kind of adversity. Some people have it put on by themselves, what they're able and willing to do. So it's something big is coming. Doesn't mean something bad. Humans have free will. Who knows what the Mueller investigation is going to come out with in the next few months or year. Watergate went on for a year or two. At the same time, I hope things don't get too damaged in the process. I'm not going to say they're not getting damaged in the environment. You got Rick Perry at the Department of Energy and, in charge of nuclear weapons. And how scary is that? Somebody that couldn't even remember the 3 departments of government that he wanted to destroy is now in charge of one of them. In charge of nuclear weapons. You know who he replaced? He replaced one of Obama's last energy secretaries, a guy named Ernest Moniz, that was a nuclear scientist, physicist, I'm not sure his exact title, but basically a guy who knew a lot about the actual science. You replace him with someone who's the complete opposite. It's not something that Trump didn't say he was going to do. Maybe he didn't come right out and say, I'm working with Russia. And some people have said, oh, well, during the campaign when he said, oh, Russia, if you're listening, those 30,000 missing emails, hopefully you can find them. I don't think everybody that voted for Trump is pro-Russia, pro-racist, any of that. I think some people just didn't like the other side that much. They didn't want to vote for the other side, and so this guy was thought of to be the lesser of 2 evils. Isn't that why all of our elections have gone bad? The lesser of 2 evils? I mean, do we want to support somebody who's okay with taking money from authoritarian governments, palling around with them, saying how much he admires Xi Jinping from China and President of the Philippines for just going around and running death squads on, drug users? Does Trump want to do that? Does he want to just go around and shoot people in the, in the ghettos and in Skid Row and drug addicts in the cities? Maybe. Maybe it's just a bunch of rhetoric. Thinks he's going to get votes. Scary part is that's more than likely his aim. But then all the other people that are listening. So, this is where language means everything and means nothing at the same time. Our words matter, but it's what we do with our words. So let's all make a deal with each other. Be a little kinder. Be a little nicer. Maybe not that we should avoid hard to talk about topics. We should talk about them. Politics and religion, that whole stereotype, cliche. But we should, again, treat others how we'd like to be treated. See each other and ourselves. When we can do that, when we start from there, so much can be alleviated and helped and talked about. So then, if we're used to partnering with each other, we're not going to see the other side's to blame. Maybe we'll blind ourselves less. And then we won't support a president who's a stooge of a authoritarian nation. What do you say? What do we have to lose? Our democracy, if we don't? And if we do, and we fail, at least we tried. Isn't that what we're here for? However, I would argue that we haven't tried, and I'm not going to say I have. But let's not only make a pact to be kinder, to be gentler, to talk to people and treat them more humanely, but let's use the accountability we use on ourselves with other people. Or should I say, let's use accountability with ourselves so we use it with other people. Because if we're trying to hold other people accountable while we're not holding ourselves accountable, then of course we're setting ourselves up for failure. So it starts with us and goes out. Let's remember that. Let's remember that the next time that we hear something happen that we're obviously against, but we don't say anything because the guy committing it we like a tiny bit better than the guy we don't like, who's not committing crimes or not sexually assaulting women or making hateful or racist statements. Let's not let those things kind of glide by anymore. Let's not blind ourselves. Be grateful for what we see. It all starts with us, not anybody else. So, let's see what we can do, huh? Let's see how we can see what happens when we communicate more and more openly. I try and practice on a daily basis with whoever I can, whenever I can. It's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast in the first place, right? Have a conversation. It's great. I love it every time. Can't wait to do more. So, I have hope. I have optimism. Things will get better. But we have to put the work in. We don't want to be waiting for Godot, right? We don't want to be endlessly sitting on a park bench waiting for our bus to arrive forever, or for somebody else to be driving that bus. Maybe we need to go hotwire a bus. Maybe we need to go build our own bus. Maybe we just need to build some vehicle that gets us there. And by getting ourselves there, we help other people. And then so on and so forth. You know, kind of like a pandemic of kindness and light energy, if you will. So it's interesting. I'd love to see it. It's what I think about a lot and dream about. Heck. So we'll see where the days take us. See where the boat steers us. Or should I say, where we steer the boat. Not our judgment day is coming. I know that's how I could have ended that. It's not that. Our judgment day is every day. Judge ourselves. Judge other people. There is no end point. I mean, maybe scientifically that the world is going to end when we trash it so much that, you know, the sun implodes or explodes or does some crazy thing that we have no idea how to really describe. But we have the ability to change our direction. And if we do that, we've always succeeded in surprising ourselves when we realize we still have that ability, right? We have all kinds of talents, and all kinds of joy, inner joy, that we can tap into. It's never fully gone, just asleep. Let's wake up. Let's do what our heart tells us. Because I can guarantee if you truly listen to your heart, it'll never tell you to harm someone else. And if you tricked yourself into thinking that it does, then you're not truly listening to yourself. That's where we need to start the hard inner work. So let's do it. Let's make a deal and just do it already. What are we waiting for? Come on. Let's do this. Let's do this thing. Because what other choice do we have? Just gonna sit here on this couch and watch TV every night like we always do? Maybe go out once in a while. Try to make our lives a little bit happier? Or are we gonna see how all of our actions interconnect? How everything gets better? Once we really put the work in to make it better. You know, we have the ability, we have the power, we have the talents, we have everything we need in our heads. So are we going to allow ourselves to utilize it? I hope. I really do. We have the opportunity, especially now. So, let's just hope we don't become the Russian states of America before that happens. Right? So, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. You seem to... We could go on and on and on, right? Just go out there, be good to people, wave at somebody when you walk down the street, and you'll see, once that human connection keeps deepening, you'll see how it connects to the whole Russian collusion thing. Okay? Or should I say, what created the environment to elect somebody who did that. We can all change. Just have to want to. We can all do this. We just have to want to. We can better ourselves. We just have to want to. We just have to ask ourselves, right? Do we want to? Do we want to change positively? I do. How about you? Yeah. I try not to lose hope. Try not to lose my good energy and good thoughts and my love. It's hard sometimes, but you know, that good day is coming. And if we're telling ourselves that it's not, then what's the point of anything, right? Every action is meant to improve our lives in some way. Just make sure that our intent is good. The road to hell is only paved with good intentions. Those intentions aren't followed up by actions that prove our good intentions. Build people up and not tear them down. And again, it comes back to us. Willing to build ourselves up specifically so we can build others up and not in spite of it. I'm ready. I know I'm willing to do what I can. I know a lot of people out there are also. Let's get together. Let's build a movement. You don't want to say revolution, you want to say the next revolution. Understand that. Evolution to revolution. Saw those t-shirts out for a while. It's cool. Wanted to get one. Didn't buy it in time. It's like a lot of specials. But we can. We have the power. We can do this. We always have been able to. We just have to realize that we have the power to change the world. We have the power to change our position. We do. It's just, do we want to put in the work, effort? We can make the whole thing better. The whole thing, if we do. Starts with us. Let's do it, people. Come on. Let's get together, treat each other like humans, and love each other. Okay? It all starts with that stepping stone process and that foundation. Let's go out, build the foundation for our new humanity. A new day is coming, although that new day is partially here too. Let's not try to prepare for how great things are gonna be. Let's make them better now. We need it now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, probably yesterday too. Not tomorrow, not 2 weeks, not 2 months, not 2 years, not 2 generations, now. There's a lot of work to be done. Let's get it done. I love the chance that I get to talk to you about all this. I hope you talk to other people about this. About just coming together. Creating groundwork for a better society and a better world. So we can do that. We just have to get together. And feel the gratitude that's within all of us. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening or day or afternoon whenever you happen to be watching this. And remember, there's always hope. There always is.